Victoria's decision to ban public displays of the Nazi swastika has made headlines around the world. The state is the first in Australia to ban the symbol of Hitler's Nazi Germany, a fascist regime which murdered 6 million Jews in concentration camps during World War II. Those caught breaking the law face up to 1 year in jail and a $22,000 fine. The banning of the swastika is a victory for Melbourne academic Dr. Dvir Abramovich, who has campaigned for the ban for 5 years. He's a senior lecturer in Jewish Studies and Culture at Melbourne University and is the chairman of the Anti-Defamation Commission. Dvir, thank you so much. Firstly, how did you feel when this law was passed through the Parliament?
Good to be with you. Well, I have to admit that sitting through the 6 hours of debate, at the end, I did shed some tears of joy. This has been a long and faithful journey. It was a glorious moment. And although it was a long journey, I knew that this day would come. This week, the bells of respect, equality, and freedom are ringing loud through the state. And really, this was an uplifting and triumphant moment that will be forever etched in the books of Australian democracy. It's a great day. I think every Australian should be proud of this milestone and this celebratory moment.
Why was this such an important pursuit for you?
Well, first of all, it honors the sacred humanity and the common values that we all cherish. But also it's a booming tribute to the diggers who sacrificed their lives to defeat the Third Reich. It's also a tribute to the 6 million Jews and the millions of others murdered by the Nazis. And of course, it honors the Holocaust survivors who rebuilt their lives. But I think more importantly, in a way, it was to send a very clear message to a resurgent and emboldened white supremacist movement here in Victoria, but also across the country. These Hitler worshippers who would love nothing more than to put people like myself, but also Muslims and Asians and members of the LGBTIQ+ community and anybody who doesn't fit into their warped Aryan worldview into the gas chambers. It was to send a very clear message. The law is no longer on your side. We are fighting back against the evil ideology that you celebrate and represent, and that you will never have a safe harbor, not in Victoria and hopefully not in other states.
Some religious groups such as Hindus and Buddhists regard the ancient swastika as sacred. What does it mean for them?
I'm very glad to say that the Victorian government took extensive and wide consultations across many faith groups, especially the Hindu, the Jain, and other faith communities who, for them, that symbol represents peace. We should, by the way, say that there are distinguishing differences between the Nazi swastika and the Hindu swastika. And therefore, the government has committed to a 6-month educational campaign whereby people will be able to be informed. But of course, also, anybody who is accused or is found to be publicly displaying the Nazi swastika will have to explain the context and the intention. So I think the law strikes the right balance. I want to make it very clear. The Nazi swastika has become the preferred weapon of choice for neo-Nazis and white supremacists. And it is used to sow fear, to intimidate, and to harass. I think that this week has struck a blow to the solar plexus of this very dangerous movement.
Well, I just wanted to pick you up on that. Are you concerned about the rise of neo-Nazi groups in Australia?
Well, over the last 5 to 6 years, first of all, we've seen an explosion in anti-Semitism, whether it is in schools, whether it is online, whether it is in the workplace. It's unprecedented. The scale of anti-Jewish bigotry, we've never seen anything like this in this country. And alongside it, we've seen a very emboldened and agitated white supremacist movement who is determined to take their online activity into the real world. And we've seen it with the National Socialist Network, we've seen it with other neo-Nazi movements. And it's not a surprise that ASIO Director Burgess has actually identified neo-Nazis as a serious threat to our national security. So I think, again, this is not the silver bullet. This is not a shortcut, but it's another step to protect the wells of our foundation and our democracy.
Just on that point you mentioned about ASIO, do you think that authorities are doing enough to combat this type of extremism?
I think that over the last few years, additional attention has been focused on the threat that these groups represent. Let's not forget that every single member of the neo-Nazi movement, these hardcore bigots, is a domestic terrorist in waiting. These are ticking time bombs. They're a clear and present danger. And as I've said numerous times, we don't need a Christchurch in Melbourne or in Sydney or in Adelaide to actually wake up and realize that we are facing a challenge. This is a problem from hell that we can't run or hide from. And I've been personally targeted by the white supremacists. I get violent death threats almost on a daily basis. Nazism is an exterminist policy. It's about the gas chambers. It's about rounding up men, women, and children and murdering them. So we need to be very much aware. This is a whole of society challenge that each one of us needs to be aware of.
I'm so sorry to hear about your negative experiences there. Dvir Abramovich from the Anti-Defamation Commission, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.